I did it because I loved my sister. My shoulders ached from the extra shifts, my eyes burned from the overtime paperwork. But I kept doing it, every single month for 3.5 years. The envelope was always the same, $900 in cash, tucked into a plain white envelope with her name written on the front. Sarah, my baby sister. Well, not so baby anymore. She was 42 when the diagnosis came. Stage 3, breast cancer. I was 61, recently retired from the postal service after 38 years. My pension wasn't generous, but it was steady. Sarah had always been the unlucky one in our family. Her husband walked out when their daughter Lily was just 2 years old. She'd worked herself to the bone as a dental hygienist, raising that little girl alone in a cramped apartment in Mississauga. When the cancer came, she had to cut her hours, then stop working entirely. The treatments were brutal. I remember the day she called me, her voice shaking. "David, I don't know what I'm going to do. The disability payments don't cover half of what I need. And Lily's in grade 9 now. She needs things. I can't even afford to keep her in soccer." I didn't hesitate. "I'll help you, Sarah. Whatever you need." "I can't ask you to do that." "You're not asking. I'm offering." So I started picking up shifts at the hardware store near my house. 3 days a week, sometimes 4. My wife Margaret understood. She'd always loved Sarah like her own sister. "We'll make it work," she told me. "Family takes care of family." Every month, I'd drive the 45 minutes to Sarah's apartment. She lived on the 3rd floor of an older building, the kind with narrow hallways that smelled like boiled cabbage and old carpet. I'd knock on the door. She'd answer with a tired smile. We'd chat for a few minutes at the doorway, and I'd hand her the envelope. "You don't have to do this," she'd say every time. "I know," I'd answer, "but I want to." She never invited me in. Looking back now, that should have been my first clue. My sister, who used to insist I stay for dinner every time I visited, who'd make me sit down and tell her about my week, who'd send Lily running to give Uncle David a hug, she kept me standing in the hallway. Every single time. But I understood. Or I thought I did. Cancer takes your dignity along with everything else. She was probably embarrassed about the state of the apartment. Maybe she didn't have the energy to entertain. Maybe she was in pain. I never pushed. The treatments went on for 2 years. Chemotherapy, radiation, surgery. Sarah lost her hair, lost weight, lost that spark she'd always had. But she fought. God, she fought hard. And when she finally went into remission, I felt like I could breathe again. My baby sister was going to be okay. "I'm clear," she told me one afternoon, tears streaming down her face. "The doctors say I'm clear, David." I hugged her right there in that hallway, both of us crying. "I'm so proud of you. So damn proud." Even after the remission, I kept sending the money. She needed time to recover, to get her strength back, before returning to work. She needed to rebuild her savings. Lily was in grade 12 now, talking about university. I wanted to make sure they had what they needed, $38,000. That's what I'd sent her over those 3.5 years. I'd worked out the math one night, sitting at my kitchen table with a calculator. $38,000 from my retirement savings in those hardware store shifts. My back hurt more than it used to. My knees protested every time I climbed a ladder to reach the top shelves. But it was worth it. Every cent was worth it. Then came the morning that changed everything. I was at the hardware store, restocking paint supplies in aisle 7, when Janet walked in. Janet Kowalski. She'd worked with Sarah at the dental clinic for 15 years. They'd been close friends, or so I thought. "David," she called out when she saw me. "I didn't know you worked here." "Just part-time," I said, climbing down from my stepladder, "keeping busy in retirement." We chatted for a few minutes about nothing in particular. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "I saw Sarah last week, you know. At Pearson Airport." I felt my smile freeze. "Sarah? At the airport?" "Yeah, she was coming back from somewhere. The Caribbean, I think. She had this amazing tan." Janet laughed. I called out to her, but I don't think she heard me. The terminal was so crowded. My mouth went dry. Must have been someone who looked like her. No, it was definitely Sarah. She had Lily with her. That girl's gotten so tall. They were pulling these big suitcases, the expensive kind. I made some excuse and walked away. My hands were shaking. The Caribbean? Sarah could barely afford groceries. Or so she'd told me last month. She certainly couldn't afford a Caribbean vacation. I tried to push it out of my mind. Maybe Janet was mistaken. Maybe it was a charity trip, something for cancer survivors. There had to be an explanation. But the thought wouldn't leave me alone. That weekend, I drove to Sarah's apartment unannounced. I'd never done that before. I'd always called ahead, always given her warning. But I needed to see her. I needed to understand. I knocked on her door. No answer. I knocked again, harder this time. Finally, I heard footsteps. The door opened just a crack. Sarah peered out, her face tight with surprise. "David, what are you doing here?" "I was in the neighborhood. Thought I'd drop by." "This isn't a good time. Lily and I were just about to head out. It'll only take a minute." She hesitated, then opened the door a bit wider, but still didn't invite me in. I could see past her into the apartment. There were shopping bags on the floor, expensive shopping bags. Coach, Michael Kors. A new television, enormous and sleek, stood against the wall where the old one used to be. "New TV?" I asked. She followed my gaze. "Oh, yeah, the old one died. Got this one on sale." Must have been some sale. Something flickered in her eyes. Guilt? Defensiveness? "David, I really need to go. Was there something you needed?" I handed her the envelope. She took it without meeting my eyes. "Listen, about this," she said. "You don't have to keep doing this. I'm doing better now." "You sure?" "I'm sure. I'm actually thinking about going back to work part-time next month." I nodded slowly. "That's great, Sarah. Really great." I left. But as I walked down those 3 flights of stairs, my mind was racing. New TV, designer shopping bags, a trip to the Caribbean. None of it made sense. That night, I did something I'm not proud of. I created a fake Facebook account. I know how it sounds, but I needed to know the truth. Sarah's profile was set to private, but Lily's wasn't. 16 years old and oversharing on social media, like every teenager. I scrolled through her posts. There were photos. So many photos. Lily at restaurants I could never afford. Lily on a beach, palm trees in the background, a drink with an umbrella in her hand, Sarah beside her in a designer swimsuit, looking healthier and happier than I'd seen her in years. The post was dated 3 weeks ago. The caption read, "Best spring break ever. Thanks, Mom, for the amazing trip." I scrolled further back. There were more trips. Montreal in December. New York City in October. Niagara Falls in August. Shopping sprees at the Eaton Center. A new iPhone. A new laptop. My hands were trembling so hard I could barely hold the mouse. I kept searching. I found a post from 4 months ago, a photo of Sarah holding a glass of champagne. Behind her, I could see a man's arm around her waist. The caption, "Finally feeling like myself again." I clicked on the tag name. Richard Brennan. His profile was public. He had photos of himself standing in front of a BMW, photos at expensive restaurants, photos on a yacht, and photos with Sarah, going back at least a year, maybe longer. One photo in particular caught my eye. Sarah and Richard at some kind of gala event. She was wearing a dress that probably cost more than my monthly pension. The date on the photo was from 8 months ago, right around the time she'd told me she couldn't afford Lily's school supplies. I closed the laptop, sat there in the darkness of my study. Margaret had gone to bed hours ago. The house was silent except for the ticking of the clock on the mantel. $38,000. I'd worked overtime for 3.5 years. I'd woken up at 5 in the morning to make it to the hardware store for opening shifts. I'd ignored the pain in my knees, the ache in my back. I'd skipped the vacation Margaret wanted to take for our 40th anniversary because we needed to save money. And Sarah had been lying to me the entire time. The cancer was real. I knew that. I'd gone with her to appointments. I'd sat in waiting rooms. I'd held her hand while she cried about losing her hair. The cancer was real, but the financial crisis, the desperate need, that had been a lie. I spent the next week digging deeper. I'm not tech savvy, but I learned. I found Richard Brennan's LinkedIn profile. He was a commercial real estate developer, wealthy, very wealthy. I found a photo of his house in Oakville, a mansion, practically. I found the deed records. Sarah's name was on them. She'd moved in with him 7 months ago. 7 months ago, while I was still delivering envelopes to that apartment in Mississauga. I drove past the apartment building on a Tuesday afternoon. There was a for rent sign in the window of what used to be Sarah's unit. I called the number. The landlord told me the previous tenant had moved out 6 months ago, paid off the lease early, and left. So who had I been giving those envelopes to? I sat in my car outside that building and pieced it together. Sarah must have been coming back to the apartment just to collect the money, driving in from Oakville once a month, waiting for me to show up, taking my envelope, and driving home to her mansion. The rage came in waves. I'd grip the steering wheel until my knuckles went white, then release it and just sit there feeling hollow. How could she do this? How could my baby sister, the girl I'd protected her whole life, look me in the eye and take my money when she didn't need it? I thought about confronting her. I imagined the conversation 1,000 times. I'd show up at that mansion, knock on the door, demand answers, demand my money back. But what would that solve? I'd learned a long time ago that revenge doesn't heal wounds, it just makes them fester. And the kind of revenge most people dream about, public confrontation, legal action, family drama, that only destroys you in the process. So I chose a different path. The next month, I didn't drive to Mississauga. I didn't prepare an envelope. When Sarah called asking if everything was okay, I told her I'd been busy but would catch up with her soon. About the money, she said. You really don't have to. I know, I interrupted. Talk soon. I hung up. I took that $900 and donated it to the Canadian Cancer Society in Sarah's name. I did the same thing the next month, and the month after that. For the next year, every bit of money I would have given to Sarah went to cancer research, to support programs for patients who truly needed help. I didn't tell anyone what Sarah had done. Not Margaret, not our older brother Thomas, not our elderly mother. What purpose would it serve? It would tear the family apart. It would break our mother's heart. And in the end, the person it would hurt most would be Lily. That girl didn't ask for any of this. I stopped going to family gatherings where Sarah would be. I made excuses. Too tired, not feeling well, work obligations. Eventually, the invitations stopped coming. Sarah tried to reach out a few times. Text messages asking if I was upset with her. Voicemails saying she missed me. I kept my responses brief and polite. I'm fine, just busy. Take care. The truth is, I wasn't fine. The betrayal cut deep. Some nights I'd lie awake, wondering what I did wrong, wondering if I'd been too easy to take advantage of, wondering if she'd ever actually loved me, or if I'd just been a convenient ATM. But I also learned something important during those dark months. I learned that the best revenge isn't about making the other person suffer. It's about refusing to let them steal anything more from you, not your peace, not your dignity, not your capacity for kindness. I kept working at the hardware store, but I started enjoying it. Without the pressure of needing that money for Sarah, the job became something different. I helped young couples pick out paint colors for their first homes. I taught teenagers how to change a washer in a leaky faucet. I became friends with the other staff, started going out for coffee after shifts. Margaret and I finally took that vacation. We went to the Maritimes, drove along the coast, stayed in little bed and breakfasts. We didn't talk about Sarah. Margaret knew something had happened, but she didn't push. She just held my hand and watched the sunset with me over the Atlantic. I started volunteering at a cancer support center. Every Tuesday morning, I'd go in and help however they needed me. Sometimes I'd drive patients to appointments. Sometimes I'd just sit and listen while they talked about their fears. I understood what they were going through in a way I couldn't before. One day, about 18 months after I'd stopped giving Sarah money, I ran into her at a grocery store. We both froze. The aisle suddenly felt very small. "David," she said softly. "Sarah, how have you been?" "Good. You?" "I've been." She trailed off. "I've missed you." I nodded. Didn't say anything. "David, She stopped, started again. "I know you know." "Know what?" "About Richard. About the money I didn't need." Her eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. It started small, just a little extra help, and then I couldn't figure out how to tell you to stop. And Richard, he kept saying I deserved it after everything I'd been through, and She wiped her eyes. "There's no excuse. What I did was terrible." I believed she was sorry. I could see it in her face. But sorry doesn't give back 3.5 years. Sorry doesn't return $38,000. Sorry doesn't erase the betrayal. "I forgive you," I said quietly. Her face lit up with hope. "Really, David, But I can't have you in my life anymore. I'm sorry, Sarah. I just can't. The hope died. She nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face now. I understand. I walked away, left my shopping cart right there in the aisle, and walked out to my car. I sat in the parking lot for a long time, crying. Crying for the relationship we used to have. Crying for my baby sister who'd made such terrible choices. Crying for myself and the fool I'd been. But when I drove home that day, I felt lighter somehow. The anger that had been sitting in my chest like a stone for all those months had finally started to dissolve. That was 3 years ago. I'm 67 now. I still work at the hardware store 2 days a week. Not because I need the money, but because I enjoy it. I still volunteer at the cancer center every Tuesday. I've helped dozens of patients navigate the same nightmare Sarah went through, except these people didn't have wealthy boyfriends or brothers with extra cash. These were people fighting for their lives, while also fighting to keep the lights on. Every month, I still think about that $900. But now, instead of it going into a white envelope for someone who didn't need it, it goes to the cancer center. Over the past few years, I've contributed more than $40,000. That money has helped pay for medication, transportation to treatments, counseling services, support groups. I heard through my brother Thomas that Sarah and Richard broke up last year. Something about him cheating with a younger woman. Sarah had to move out of the mansion. She's renting a condo somewhere in Burlington now, working full-time at a dental clinic again. Lily's in her 2nd year at Ryerson, studying business. I hope they're okay. I genuinely do. I hope Sarah learned something from all this. I hope Lily grows up to be honest and kind. I hope they're happy, but I don't need to be part of their lives to hope those things. Sometimes I still drive past that old apartment building in Mississauga. I think about all those months I stood in that hallway, handing over envelopes, believing I was helping someone I loved. And you know what? I was helping someone I loved. I was just helping the wrong one. Because the person I should have been protecting all along was myself. My shoulders still ache sometimes from those extra shifts. My knees still protest when I climb ladders at the store. But now, when I feel that pain, I don't resent it. It reminds me that I'm strong enough to help people. It reminds me that I survived. And it reminds me that the truest form of revenge isn't destruction. It's reconstruction. Building a life so full of purpose and peace that the person who wronged you becomes irrelevant. I did it because I loved my sister. Past tense. I loved the sister I thought I had. The real Sarah. The one who could lie to my face, month after month. I don't know her. And I'm okay with that. Because the most important thing I learned from all of this is that family isn't just about blood. It's about trust, respect, and genuine care. The people at the cancer center, my colleagues at the hardware store, the patients I drive to appointments, they're my family now. And this family doesn't take advantage. This family doesn't lie. This family shows up for each other because we want to, not because we have to. Would I give that $38,000 back if I could? Yes. Would I do things differently? Absolutely. But I can't change the past. All I can do is make sure the future is built on a stronger foundation. So if you're reading this, if you're going through something similar, if someone you love has betrayed your trust, stolen from you, used your kindness against you, I want you to know something. You have a choice. You can let it destroy you, or you can let it teach you. Choose the lesson. Choose to protect your peace. Choose to redirect that energy toward people who genuinely need it and will genuinely appreciate it. Choose quiet vengeance. Not the kind that hurts others, but the kind that heals you. Because at the end of the day, the best revenge is refusing to become bitter. It's holding on to your capacity for kindness while learning to be wiser about where you place it. I'm still kind, but I'm no longer naive, and that's a trait I can live with.